Okay, guys, so as editing this, I've realized a couple things. I realized that I kind of sound awkward on camera, that I'm saying a lot. That's just because I'm not as comfortable yet with it, because I haven't done it a lot, so that's one thing. And the second thing, I know the quality of the video and the fact that there's a massive Wii Video watermark in the corner. I don't have any actual software right now. So this is how it's gonna be for maybe the first two or three episodes until I can actually get something that's that's solid and that works. That's how it's gonna be for now. So thanks. Okay, so hey guys, this is gonna be the first podcast of Inside the Mind of Caleb Walker. We have a couple things on the agenda for today. First off, I'm going to talk about what this podcast is about and my experience, upload schedule, kind of stuff like that, where it's going to be uploaded to. And then for the second half of this podcast, I'm going to talk about healthy ways of coping with anger, sadness, anxiety, and how to keep your mental health in check throughout this quarantine period. So, first off, as you already know, podcast name Inside the Mind of Caleb Walker. It's basically about what my opinions on things. So mostly my opinion on mental health, considering that's a thing that I'm very passionate about. As well, I'm going to be talking about certain ways to help with your mental health, certain ways to help with somebody else's mental health. There's a bunch of stuff. It's all mental health related. So my experience, I grew up in a group home. So a group home is basically a home with a certain amount of people with certain needs. So some might be physical, some might be mental. I grew up with my dad owning a home for people with serious mental illness, like schizophrenia, bipolar. We had roughly maybe 28 around there. It was always changing, people moving in and out, but kind of around like around that number. So I always grew up with it, and I genuinely, that's where I think I got my interest from. So um, after we sold that business, but I continued to work there for a little bit after, and that's where I developed some strategies. In fact, I'm still currently working on a study about the effects of exercise and schizophrenia paranoia symptoms. So that is, I'm currently on page 11, I think. So it's gonna be long, but I'm really happy to be working on that. I don't know what I'm gonna do with it, but it's good practice because this is the kind of work I want to go into. I want to eventually become either social service worker or a service worker. Um, so yeah, um, upload schedule. Uploads maybe once a week. It'll be kind of it'll be kind of not. It won't be really scheduled at the start, due to the fact that school's starting, and I'm also trying to find a job, which is extremely hard considering this whole virus thing. But yeah, it won't be any set schedule until if a lot of people decide to join and listen in. Then yeah, for sure. Excuse me. Then for sure, I will definitely create a certain upload schedule. But yeah. Okay, so I don't know if I already said this, what this podcast is going to be about. Um, Also, more of my experience. So, after working at the group home, I decided to do some presentations. So, 2 weeks ago, actually, this was just to my family, but I've been working on this for a long time. I did a 2 hour presentation on how to support somebody in either a crisis, not in a crisis, supporting people with mental health issues, supporting people without mental health issues, kind of all that in a big presentation. So I'm gonna take a little chunk of what I talked about in there and talk about today, which is the coping with anxiety, anger, and depression and sadness. So I did that presentation, and then a while back, I think it was in October, December, I did a presentation to Emmanuel Baptist Church about um, religion and mental health, and how mental health is portrayed in the Bible. So that was an hour long presentation. Yeah, hour long presentation. So I'm very passionate about this stuff. I have a bunch of material that I can go on for like maybe 5 of these episodes, maybe something along the lines of that. Um, but it's definitely it's really big passion, and especially now, um, with people being quarantined, they might not be taking as well of care of themselves as possible. Because keeping your physical health and your mental health in check is so important. Because the body can't run without the brain, and the brain can't really run without the body. So they work together, and if one is failing, then the other will fail too. And I'm going to explain that later on. Okay, so first off, I'm going to say a huge thank you to uh, one of my friends. His dad is a licensed not well I don't know about license, but he's an anger management counselor. So he gave me this amazing tool. It's called therapist.org. It's basically it's a website with a bunch of sheets on like helping with your emotions, unhealthy versus healthy coping strategies, positive psychology prompt cards, and what we're talking about today, worry coping cards. But I kind of put that all in worry, sadness, anxiety, kind of, or not anxiety, anger. So, big thank you to them for, or him, for directing me to this tool, because it's been an extreme help for me trying to learn more. Okay, so first part of it's done. Thank you guys if you've been listening for this long. I mean, if you didn't, there's probably only two reasons why you're listening. Three reasons. Sorry, you genuinely want to learn more about mental health. You're one of the people who I told to listen to, and have only made it through 6 minutes, or you just want an excuse to say you've been productive and say you listen to a podcast. Which either three ways is good. I mean, you're listening, so that's a win in my book. Okay, so what we're going to be discussing today, as I said before, is the two ways that you can keep your mental health in check for quarantine. There's definitely more. I'm only going to be talking about the two right now because this is kind of filler content, just to as the starting podcast. Um, Also, I forgot to mention, but I'm going to be uploading this onto YouTube under the channel name Inside the Mind of Kale Walker. So that's where I'm going to be uploading it to start. I don't know if I can upload it really anywhere else. I'll have to check that out. But definitely, right now, I'm going to be uploading it to YouTube. Okay, so to start, we have how to keep your mental health in check during quarantine. So I know it's pretty hard. I've heard some people are um, not really going crazy, but like kind of are off because of this, because it's been a long time since this happened. This has never happened in my lifetime. I've never been quarantined to my house for like a month. So it'll definitely have impacts on your mental health due to the fact of not being able to see friends, not having a solid routine. So actually, that's a good way. So that's my starting point. Have a routine. A routine helps immensely with not just your mental health, but being productive. Which, I mean, I guess it can be qualified as mental health, but being productive, you want to be productive in these days. So a good thing that I'm trying to do is set short-term goals for myself for this quarantine. Um, in order to, because setting short-term goals will help me achieve them a lot better. Okay. Um, so that's number one. Number two. Oh, sorry. Also, keeping a routine. If you do something, I forget what the study is. I think it's if you do something 40 times. I'm gonna have to fact check that. Don't quote me on that. But if you do something, I think it's 40, 30 times in a row, it becomes a habit. So if you do something 30, 40 times in a row, like waking up at the same time, then it'll automatically become a habit. I know a lot of people look at people that wake up at like 4 in the morning for work and go, "How do these guys do it?" Well, it's simple. They have a routine. They go to bed a lot earlier than you do. Then they wake up a lot earlier than you do. So it's all routine. Keeping a routine will definitely help throughout this quarantine season. Okay. Number two, social media use. Now this one, it's kind of obvious. Oh, social media is bad. You shouldn't look at social media. Well, yeah, but there's a different reason why I'm saying it, and it's not because of self-image or body image or anything like that. That's for a different story. But this time it's for um, because it can be not so much addicting, but it can kind of take over. Um, so I don't know if any of you guys have noticed, but when you're watching Netflix or anything like that, it when you when you look at the time, you're like, oh boy, the time has passed insanely quick, which is true because you're kind of zoned in into social media, which can be a problem. So, and it can also become a really bad habit, not like an addiction, not like where you're needing constant dopamine rushes, but it can become a habit. Just like what I said, if you do something 40 times, it can become a habit. That also applies to bad things too. So, and I know a lot of us check social media, especially teens. Uh, it's not good. Like my screen time, I've been trying to lower it, but my screen time was like 8 hours a couple days. It was bad. It's not good. So definitely lowering social media use will help in the long run. And I'm not saying to completely cut it out, which I mean that would be good. But social media is also a really great tool to help connect with your friends, especially in times like this, using Zoom to help connect to people. I mean, you don't want to be completely isolated because then that'll probably have a worse effect on your mental health than actually having social media. Okay. So number 3, and I know this everybody hates to hear this, but it's exercising. And I know a lot of people are like, "Well, you can't exercise. Gym isn't open." Yeah, that's true. But there's also little cardio things that you could do. Like for example, I know it's not much, but I've been jumping on the trampoline for like an hour to 2 hours a day. It has helped immensely. It's helped with my focus, it's helped with my mood, it's helped with keeping a routine because I try and do it at the same times every day. So there's so much it can do. So what exercises? Well, first of all, I've been reading from this book called Spark. It's a book about the revolutionary new science of exercise in the brain. It's a very good book. I'm not too far in it, um, but it has a lot of technical terms. So a lot of neuroscience kind of technical terms. So if you love that kind of stuff, I definitely suggest tech checking it out. Um, but exercising will help with a lot of things. Going on like a little run, even like 10 minutes a day. It doesn't need to be a full on 1 hour workout, but just those like 10 minutes of like biking or running can help in the long run. Okay, so those were the ways of keeping your mental health in check. Now, um, I'm going to be talking about ways to help in a certain emotion. So these are called worry coping cards. Now, as I said before, I use them for everything. If somebody's anxious, if somebody's sad, if somebody's angry. Um, I don't have them out on me at all times, but I've kind of memorized them a little bit. There's about there's about 12 of them, which but they're all great. They're all really good. Okay, and I'm gonna be now. I'm gonna be talking about every single one. But I suggest if you have a notebook, I suggest writing a couple of these down. You don't need to do all of them, but just like a couple will definitely help. So, first one, and probably one of the best ones ever, is taking deep breaths. So, excuse me. So, taking deep breaths will help with your blood pressure. Not blood pressure. It'll help with getting the blood to your brain. It'll help you think a lot more clearly. It'll help stop any sudden, not sudden moves, but like kind of any sudden action that you'll take. Because when you're angry, or mostly when you're angry, this helps a lot when you're angry. It also helps for somebody either going through a panic attack. It doesn't help so much when you're sad, but it helps a lot with anger. So when you're angry, you're not really thinking clearly. You're only thinking about the thing that has made you angry. So um, imagine that. So for guys, imagine that your little brother won't get off the PS4 and he keeps on arguing with you. That'll make you really angry. Today, the Wi-Fi on my computer wasn't working, and that made me extremely angry. Um, so instead of having like a meltdown and punching a wall, which I used to do, or not punching a wall, punching a punching bag, which also can help actually. Punching a punching bag can help get your anger out. But what would be better is what I did today, which was taking deep breaths, because then that helped me think clearly. It also helped me get my parents to give me a good idea to actually search up how to do the question, or search up an answer to the problem. But um, just those deep breaths help me calm down a lot and not turn this situation into a really big problem. So, um, the next thing I'm going to talk about is stop and listen. So, stop and listen is so just like spending a few minutes just listening to the sounds around you. So, like, what sounds do you hear? Are they loud, soft? Pay special attention to interesting sounds you've never noticed before. So, this is taking um, oh, excuse me. This is taking all of your this is taking your mind off of what is making you angry, sad, whatever, and instead putting it into listening, which helps a lot because like I said, it'll help take your mind off things. Okay, let's see. Oh, favorite place. Okay, so favorite place is, I think you've all heard this before. Um, so when you're angry or sad, favorite place will help with trying to think of a place where you feel calm, comfortable, and happy. Maybe a beach, forest, your bedroom, or somewhere else. Imagine what this place looks like and sounds like, and imagine how good you feel when you're there. So, just like the stop and listen, this takes your mind off whatever is making you angry, sad, or anxious. And this helps especially because, of course, your favorite place will make you happy, and that's the emotion that you want to be. That's the what's it called? Like the goal emotion. That's what you want to be. So that favorite place will definitely help. Okay, so draw your worry. So this is kind of for people who like to draw and are good at drawing. Um, so draw a picture about what you're worried about, what you're angry about, what you're sad about. So here's some ideas of what you can draw. What you look like when you're worried and when you're calm. What you can do to stop worrying, and something that you're worried about. So this can help get those emotions out, because a lot of people have problems with bottling up their emotions. And once you bottle up emotions, then it can explode. It's kind of like if you put if you put Mentos into Coke and screw on the cap, and eventually, if you keep on shaking it, eventually it's gonna explode. That's kind of like us with our emotions. Eventually, it'll all erupt out, and it won't be pretty, considering that we won't be thinking clearly. Okay, so next one. This is for kind of the writers. This is the same as Draw Your Worry, but this is journaling. So, writing about your worries, use these questions to get started. So, what are you worried about? What do you do when you're worried? And what happened last time you worried about something similar? So, just like the draw your worry, this will help get any emotions out onto paper. And like I said, this can be for any kind of emotion: anger, sadness, um, anxiety. I don't know why that was, why I couldn't think of that. But it'll definitely help. I don't personally do that because I'm not a big writer. I like to do something else, which I'm gonna describe later. Okay, so next one, write a happy ending. So usually when you worry, you imagine things ending badly. Try writing about your worry, but making the ending positive. Write about how you solve a problem, relax, start feeling better, handle your worry. So, writing a happy ending can most definitely help with whatever emotion you're experiencing. Because if you think about the happy ending, then it's more likely to happen. Because if your brain is only thinking about negatives, then only negatives are going to come from that. But if you're thinking about positives, then it's a lot more likely that positives are going to come out of that. So, writing a happy ending will definitely help with that. Okay, so think about what it is. So this works well with breathing deeply or deep breathing. So when you worry, you probably think of bad things that could happen. Instead, try and thinking of what actually happens most of the time. For example, instead of thinking I'm worried I'll miss a school bus, try thinking I've never missed my bus before. So that's a really good example of how you can try and distract your mind from any negative thinking, but instead think of positives. Okay, so the one that I like to do, um, and I find it helps me the most. It might not help you guys, but is talk about it. So talking about your feelings is one of the most powerful ways to control them. Tell a trusted person like a parent, friend, teacher, or counselor about what you're worried about. Try and use a sentence to get started. I feel worried, angry, anxious when. So excuse me, it definitely helps, especially with with a counselor or a parent, because most of the time they're a lot more equipped to help you. Um, Now, telling a friend is good, but if you're relying on them, then it can be hard. It can be hard for them to try and help you, because they might not be qualified to do that, or have the certain materials to do that. It's not a bad thing to tell them what you're thinking, but if you're relying on them for advice, um, then it can be sometimes problematic, especially if you're in a crisis moment. What I would suggest if you're in a crisis moment is tell your parents immediately. Either tell your parents, call 911, or um, a crisis helpline. Those are the three things that I would suggest doing. Do not tell your friends. Um, they will not be equipped. They will not be equipped for it unless they are like they're in psychology, or they're a social worker or something along the lines of that. But if they're just like in high school right now, they're not equipped to deal with that kind of emotional baggage. Okay, so next one, listen to music. So listening to music is another one of my favorite ones, because I see a lot of people, when they're down, they listen to negative music, which makes absolutely no sense. It's like if you want to if you want to make a fire die down, like if you want to put out a fire, you're not going to throw gasoline on it. I'll just make it bigger. That's exactly what sad music does to somebody, cuz music highly impacts our emotions. I read a study the other day, um, about music. Music has an insane impact on our emotions. So when you feel those like, ooh, when you feel those like thrills, chills, whatever, then that's because of the dopamine rushing inside your brain. That's because of the reward system. So that's why music has a huge impact on your emotions. It can control your mood, basically. So my suggestion would be listening to very positive music. Um, and positive music can be different for anybody, but music that puts you in a good mood, not music that puts you in your feels, I guess is what you say, or music that would make you feel sad, because that will just make everything worse. Okay, now, like I said before, another one, get moving. Get your energy out by being active. Play a sport, ride your bike, dance, swim, go for a walk, or run around until you're tired. So, like I said, exercise can help with your mood in, immensely because when you exercise, you're releasing those neurochemicals. And one of those is dopamine, which is the reward chemical of the brain, the pleasure chemical. So you feel this when you try good food, when you watch a good movie, when you hang out with friends, when you listen to good music. This is the chemical that is activated. So and exercising activates this chemical. So if you as well, it'll take your mind off things, and it'll it exercise is literally the best way. It is. I think it might be better than medication. It'll take a while. It'll be hard to get used to it, but it'll help a lot. Okay, and the last one for today is practice a hobby. So practicing a hobby will definitely help. Do any hobby that you think might distract you from your worry, anger, sadness. Play an instrument, paint, practice a new skill, play a game, or do anything else that you enjoy. Um, so this will I what is it? I like to drum sometimes. Not on like an actual drum kit, even though I am a drummer. But I like to drum in my lap or something when I'm feeling very anxious, because it helps kind of get energy out. And I'm a very fidgety person, so that definitely helps. Okay, well, thank you guys for thank you guys for listening. If you made it this far, good job. I'm really proud of you. But we'll see how this goes. I would love to continue to do these things because, as I said, I'm very passionate, and I would love for the world to hear about this information, because I think a lot of people need to be reached with this information, but they're not in a position. Not in a position. They don't have anybody to tell them, because they're only looking at garbage on the internet. They don't have any positives in their life. So this is definitely something that I would love to not only get big, but to for people to um, use to help with their mental health. So, like I said before, thank you guys for listening. I'm going to be trying to upload maybe once a week. Um, this one was a kind of a shorter podcast because I didn't really have much planned, but definitely for next podcast, I'm going to have a lot more planned. Next podcast, I think I might dig into my presentation on supporting people with mental health. And I'll talk about my experience with it, and what tips I used other than just the worry coping cards. So that's something I'll probably talk about. Another podcast, I'll probably talk about building connections with somebody. So um, how to what's it called? How to like make friends with somebody, but not just friends. Like how to build a deeper connection in order to get those deep conversations. Okay, well, thank you guys so much, and I'll see you guys later. Have a great night.